following the podcast. So that's Bill Ross. He's an SEO guru. If you guys have questions for him later on, how to get your website ranked higher. You gonna talk about link building a little bit? Okay. Next gentleman, you probably know him. He builds websites for realtors. This is what he does. He's actually exhibiting outside. The name of his company is called Real Grader. And Jason, Real Grader means they're gonna grade you for real. That's what they're gonna do. He owns he's an entrepreneur. Give it a round of applause for Alex Montalenti. I think you guys know this guy, Alex. Come on up, Alex. Good guy. Have a seat next to Bill. These are SEO guys. They know their stuff. Tell me what I'm going to do with Jason Hennessey.
Jason Hennessey is supposed to be joining us from Las Vegas.
I don't know if we can get him on the screen. If we can't get him on board.
Is this going to happen?
Well, if it's not going to happen,
let's get Alex.
Well, yeah, let's get another gentleman here. He was smart enough to pick up a good domain name back in the day. You know, domain names are very important these days. And look who's here. We got Steve Sachs. We got like a celebrity alert over here. Hey, Steve. He's hiding. So anyway, the next gentleman that's going to come join us and talk to you about SEO is a gentleman that runs a company called SmartSites.com. Let's welcome Alex Melen. Melen. So if we don't have Jason Hennessey, we'll
we out. We can't Skype.
That's fine, we can deal with these
Just let him know. Let's go.
We're running a little late, so
we are running a little late, so we're going to move on
as quick as possible. Well, Jason, what's a good question for these gentlemen? I mean, SEO, we have two different worlds in here. We have the real estate world. We also have.
I think a fair question is any one of you gentlemen could explain quickly what is SEO?
Who wants
to take that? That's a softball. Who wants it?
I think Bill Hartzer.
I'll go.
Alex Montalenti.
Okay.
So SEO is search engine optimization. So you're optimizing for the search engines. Meaning if somebody was to go to Google and they were to do a search for a particular keyword or for a particular brand or a local area, pretty much any word or set of words, what would show up are the results. And you're optimizing to be one of those results. So whether you're optimizing for your name, like Maria Babayev, she's highly optimized for her name, or you're optimizing for a local area, like she's optimized for Old Westbury real estate, she shows up on page 1 for that, or maybe you're optimized for a set of keywords. So it's really showing up on the search engines.
So I have a question. What happens when you have, and a lot of people in this audience know about this, you have MLS listings, right? And you have a lot of duplicate content on multiple sites. Maybe Bill, you could talk about how you get your site to rank if others are also using the same content. Is that something you could help out with?
Sure. So it's an interesting concept. So basically, if we have, let's say, 4 or 5 different real estate sites, and you're all competing, and you're basically pulling those listings from the MLS. It really is kind of an arms race. The first one, that first page or that first listing, whoever has that listing to get indexed in Google. So Google's crawlers are crawling in all the web back, over and over again. And they're crawling every web page on the internet. The first one to get that MLS listing crawled by Google, they're going to typically be the ones that'll show up on towards the top. So a lot of this SEO is looking at your particular website, making it load as fast as possible, because Google really likes really fast loading web pages. We're always trying to essentially optimize our site so that basically Google can crawl every single page and get those listings quickly. It comes down to a lot of technical things, but that's essentially what it is. and that, whether the system works.
Okay, so it all comes
I
down
was
to...
going to ask Alex.
Alex might be able to
related
tell us.
to Google. What are some ways really to optimize a website?
Yes.
Is it link building? Is it content? Is it, what really optimizes?
Great question. So I'll throw in a couple more steps. That was a great answer, and that's literally when you throw lots of duplicate content out there, Google will take the first one or the most authoritative one, and literally that will get...
Well, let's talk about what is duplicate content. Some of these people
Yeah.
might not know what duplicate content is.
Yeah, so based from the previous question, it's literally when you use the IDX feed, the same listing is duplicated across the board. It's all the same information, so Google treats it as duplicate content and discounts it right away. Just to add, before going to your question, just to add a couple of quick cents to what you were saying. On top of being obviously the first and all that, it's a little bit of a crapshoot and definitely important, but it's always tough. What I tell the real estate agents we work with is, along with having the IDX feed on your website with all everyone's information, your own listings, I have them list themselves on their website. So they have the IDX feed. For their own listings, I have them listed themselves with their own information, the titles, metas, pictures, description, everything will be different from what's in IDX. So that will always rank higher because it is not duplicated. Obviously, you can't do that for other people's listings, you can only do it for your own, but that's definitely something I recommend. If you have a website and you're purely relying on the IDX feed, you're definitely not going to get as much traffic as if you were manually posting your own listings on there as well. It's definitely extra work, but it'll definitely give you a lot more traffic.
So the takeaway for the audience is that you guys need to pay attention to what's on your site, right? Your website. We talked about this earlier, that many of you don't even have a website yet, but you will after this show. So what are you putting on your website? What content are you using? If this agent and the one in the back all has the same listing, you've got to figure out, what you're talking about is how you list that on your site, how you reference it, right?
A couple of levels. If you don't have a website, you're all the way at the bottom.
That's right.
If you have a basic website, you're definitely getting somewhere. You can have a basic one where everything's automated, you don't do any work on at all. And then I think the next level is you're creating unique content, you're posting your own listings separately from IDX, you're doing some of the video stuff that Roberto Blake spoke about. I think there's different steps. Each step requires more commitment, more time.
Sure.
Just keep in mind, just before you go on, that this not only is reflecting into the real estate industry, this is anybody who has a website.
Yeah.
So duplicate content is obviously being penalized by Google. They don't like duplicate content. They want original content, right? So this doesn't only apply to the real estate industry, but it applies to anybody who's running a website. You got to pay attention to these tips as to how to get your site optimized. Go ahead.
I just want to add something with the properties. So that's a very common question we get. How come I've just listed this property, but I Google the property address and I don't show up? Coldwell Banker shows up, Zillow shows up, Realtor.com shows up, but I'm the listing agent. Why isn't it showing up for me? And unfortunately, what you're dealing with, there's a lot of competition. You know, companies like Zillow that have huge domain authority, they're going to get listed first. So I almost tell my clients, give up on that game, because that's a very competitive game, and look for what can you optimize yourself for that's slightly unique. Maybe it's an entire building. You can get optimized for a building a lot easier than for a specific property. Then you could show up all for the listings in that building, or find a community that you want to go after. That's ways to go deeper than Zillow goes. Zillow goes very on the surface, and you're a local expert, so you can go really deep. And the deeper your site is, I find that you get higher ranking results.
Well, that's true, because I've sometimes Googled Forest Hills homes for sale, or Forest Hills real estate for sale, and I see a company called Melen Realty. It comes up the first, second, or third. I'm thinking this company really not doing much SEO, but they're coming up there. I guess they're doing some sort of SEO, and you're helping.
We do their SEO.
So how are you helping them ranking? Are you link building? Are you putting original content? What are you doing to get them higher?
Really, it's about consistency. So it has to follow from the home page to the landing page. All the metadata has to be consistent. You mess up just a little something, it's like the architecture or the foundation of a home. You need the foundation and the structure to be solid, and then you build upon that and you create more depth of content. And what we do is we continue to make sites deeper and deeper and deeper for a specific area or set of keywords, and that works.
So let's take a step back. how many in this room know what a website builder is? And you go onto like GoDaddy and okay. So when you buy a domain name and then you use your registrar, you get a website builder. Wix does this, a couple of companies do this. You're going to have a panel over there that's going to tell you how you create your content and what you do. What these gentlemen are talking about is what you put in certain fields in those sections. And when you use a website builder, it's very different than when you have a custom website that is built. So I think the audience also needs to understand the distinction of what you do when you just log into GoDaddy, buy and throw up a web page, and what we're kind of talking about and how you deal with that in both scenarios. So can someone speak to that? Bill?
Sure. So basically, there's, the really difference is when you go in to create you create your own website through a website builder. You're using essentially a template and sometimes some stock images that they provide you and templates and themes and so forth. You're responsible typically for putting in the name of the headings and the content, the text of that web page. So there could definitely be a basic real estate website that would have that. Once you get into a situation where you're wanting to pull the MLS listings and you're wanting to pull data from other sources, that's kind of the distinction that, okay, there are not really any website builders. Typically, you would need something custom. And so we're talking about then going in, having something more customized, like using WordPress and even some more higher end type of solutions that will pull in like the MLS listings automatically and populate those.
Well, this discussion's about how people in the audience, realtors, how many of them are really running their own website, opposed to hiring gentlemen like yourselves to do the SEO, to do the designing, to adding the content. So, Bill, what are some common mistakes that people are doing if they're doing SEO themselves, or anything that you can?
Sure. So one of the services that I specialize in, and actually about 90% of my business is doing audits of websites, very highly technical audits. So you'll come to me and say, okay, well, I'm not doing well in the search engines. What am I doing wrong? And some of the there's a lot of common mistakes that people make. One of the common mistakes I would say is moving a website from maybe a website builder to another custom solution, sort of upgrading your website. So when you change your pages and you add more pages and you add the MLS listings, a lot of sort of technical things can get screwed up, and we never really do it on purpose. It's just sometimes our website is.
Hello, welcome to Skype.
Oh, that's good.
All right, welcome Skype. You're still trying to get Jason, all right. So
the other issues, basically, when it comes, I've audited in the past month over 100, or in the past year, over 100 different real estate sites, and the biggest problem is actually just that website allowing the search engines to. Goodbye.
That's a great website feature.
Yes,
it is.
So it's really, a lot of it is just your website itself is that, there are issues that are stopping the search engine from really finding all the listings. And once you open that up and let the search engines in and crawl and get the proper information about your site, a lot of things can change.
How much does it cost to do an audit on a website? I know you did a website audit for me, and some little things like having a misspell of a word actually damages your ranking, or at least Google seeing as you're not an authoritative site because you have a lot of misspellings and your content's not right.
Sure, it can run anywhere from hundreds of dollars to I did a recent website for school.com. And that was well into the six figures, but with hundreds of thousands of pages and a lot of issues. So,
Alex, you mentioned about getting things higher on ranked on websites. Part of your SEO, are you doing any link building? Does link building even work anymore?
Yeah, it's not part of our strategy. I mean, we do link building also, but it's more depth of content. I just wanted to add two things that you could take away, mistakes that I see very common. Number one is people spreading themselves too thin. So I'm the Long Island realtor. Well, you can be the Long Island realtor, but you're not going to show up for all 220 towns, right? That's not going to happen. I mean, we did take on a client, Signature Premier in Long Island. They have 14 offices. They wanted to rank for all 220 towns. They're starting to see some progress, but you're spreading yourself so thin that you're just much better off picking one town and just nailing it and being on page one for that one town. And then move to the next town, and then move to the next town. And just keep building depth of content. The other second mistake I see is that people are so focused on, oh, I have to show up for all these keywords. Well, the worst thing what we see is that you're not showing up for your name. Like, the first thing I'm gonna Google is you, the individual, the brand, the team, and I'm gonna see what shows up. And what we found is 80% of realtors don't even have a Google business profile, right? Some of the people who've been on this stage, I've Googled them, they don't have a Google business profile. So having a Google business profile for your business is key, and then for your brand is key, and as an individual agent, having it for yourself, that you're gonna drive the customer journey, so they're gonna Google you, you're optimized for your name, then you send them to the website that you want to send them to, because that's what is hooked up to your Google business page.
So it sounds like, if we're paying attention throughout the whole morning, you have, the first step is obviously buy your domain name. The second step is start making content like Roberto Blake suggested, but instead of trying to go broad and do everything, focus on a couple niches that you are familiar with, a couple areas or tenants.
It could be co-ops, condos.
Right.
It could be short sales, anything.
And then do that well. And of course, as you just said, first things first, clean up your house and make sure your name is ranking, right? Make sure you are ranking and that you have content related to you. And I think that's a good first step to get started.
So I would jump in here. So even before you think about buying that domain name, okay, even before that, there's a keyword research process.
Who's doing that?
Well, hold on, what's keyword to do? What was a keyword?
Yeah, explain the keyword.
Maybe you know, maybe you don't.
Yeah, so when we look at, when we go to google.com, we essentially start with a word, and we call them keywords, and that would be something like, New York real estate, or New York realtors, or Long Island realtors. You're looking for, whatever word you're going to search for in that search box. That is closely, so we have, luckily with the internet, allows us to have a lot of essentially market research data. We know specifically that there are, I'm just throwing some numbers out there, but for Long Island real estate, there's, 500 people who search that per month. But for, Long Island realtors, there's, 1,500 people. So you get kind of an idea, just by you adding an S to the word, or removing the S, or having, real estate versus realtors versus condos versus, mortgage versus mortgages, there's a big difference in the number of people and the popularity of those words. And so that kind of can give you a good indication of, okay, well, if there's more people searching for that word, it's more popular, then that's maybe we should use a domain name that has those words in it. And so that's
Give an example. It'd be like LongIslandRealEstate.com.
Yes, exactly. So, if that is the biggest, most important word that everybody searches for is Long Island real estate, versus, LI real estate, or there's, a ton, probably a ton of different versions of those. And those different versions can vary the number of searches per month. And not only the popularity of, the singular versus the plural can change, but, it could be the plural version is really popular in Long Island, but then you go to Staten Island and the singular version is more popular there. So it really has a lot of difference. And so spending your time essentially, even before you buy that domain name, to spend that time to look and understand the different versions of what people are searching for. We have tools that tell you, how many searches per month, but they also give you different versions. The people who search for Long Island real estate also search for, Montauk real estate or whatever, different
hyperlocal stuff.
And so we have, so you get those real, you get ideas. And it all starts with those keyword and words of the ideas, and you see what's popular. And what I recommend is then start searching in Google, doing those searches and seeing who comes up, what kind of the market is, and feeling out the market and the competition a little bit. And then you start to look at domain names and, getting a good keyword domain name like LongIslandRealEstate.com or the city name.
So we can start out, people can go home and right now on their phone, start out on Google and start and just kind of search and play around and see what comes up. But there are more technical ways to do it right. So Alex, Melen, maybe you could talk about what else people can be doing or how you help people other than just blindly going on Google and playing with search terms. What can be done to
I think it's
start
difficult because a lot of realtors right in the audience, they're really not web developers, right? So where do we start? Right, how do SmartSites help?
Cool, so great question. I think to even take a step back before that, I feel like a lot of people, especially, well, in all industries, but even very prevalent in the real estate space, a lot of real estate agents are kind of afraid of SEO. Some people have had bad experiences. Some people don't even know what it is or what it does, and a lot of people just stay away from it. Similar on the web development side, I've seen over the last couple of years, people kind of get forced into having a website. Look, 5 years ago, a lot of real estate agents didn't, and they still don't. They rely on their broker to have a page about them, and that's it. But I think perceptions are trying to shift a little bit. And before I jump a little more, I just wanted to say that for those that are afraid of doing SEO or don't know what it is or have bad experiences, please grab me or these other guys today, tomorrow, and just chat about it, because it's not a bad thing, and your competitors are doing it, and they're taking away from you by doing it. So definitely don't be afraid of it. Grab us, have the conversation. Even if you had a bad experience before, even if you heard about that experience, definitely something worth doing. In terms of tools and what to do, there's a lot of agencies out there that could help out. Audits, like we just spoke about. There's a lot of agencies that will do a very basic audit for free for you to at least give you some basic information before you jump in. Don't think you have to jump in and invest 5 figures to just get something out of it. Definitely learn about it. I think it's very hard to do it by yourself these days. It used to be a lot easier 5, 10, 15 years ago. These days, it's almost a full-time job to keep up with the SEO side. It's a full-time job to keep up with the pay-per-click side. Full-time job to keep up with the development side to make sure you have the right metas and everything. I think for you guys out there, your advantage is running your own business or running your own agency or running even if you're a single real estate agent, just doing what you do. I think I would push people to at least have a chat with the agencies out there to see how we can help you out.
Yeah, there's 2 types of, I guess, websites out there, right? There's one website that people build for themselves just so they can showcase themselves, right? And then the other part is where they actually want to not only showcase themselves, but they want to get leads through the internet, through those websites. So that's where SEO comes in. So, you could have your own website that's very nice, you got a good domain, but it's not bringing you any leads. But if if somebody's typing into Google, I want to sell my home in Tribeca, yeah, you're asking, well, how come I don't come up? I have a website in Tribeca, I have a keyword Tribeca in it, but I'm not coming up, I'm on page 16. So there's two things to think about. There's the SEO part, and there's the part where I just want to showcase my business, and I don't really need SEO, I don't need leads, I just want to showcase my
I
business.
think these days, even if you go the showcase route, you want to just have like your resume out there. I think it's hard to even rank for it if you're not doing anything, because you have your profiles everywhere else, your Zillow, your Trulia, all your other profiles will load above it, and then you don't control the content, you don't control the material, you don't control that lead. Someone searches your name, clicks to some kind of real estate profile, and then finds another realtor.
Yeah, Alex is going to talk about, people are Googling your name.
Yeah, that's another panel.
That's tomorrow morning.
One thing everybody has to keep in mind, there are just in .com alone, there are over 140 million domain names registered.
Right there in the top left-hand corner.
140 million domain names registered. There are, and we're going to get to this in the next panel after lunch, there's a whole new set of domain names that are out there that are not .com and .net, that are actually related to a topic. There's a .real estate, there's a .club, there's a .nyc, there's a .realtor, and we're going to talk about that at the next panel. So one of the things you guys can do as we break for lunch soon is outside the VeriSign booth here, they have I think it's called Name Silo.
Name Studio.
Name Studio. And you can type in words, and if you have ideas about names you would like, it'll give you suggestions about available domain names. So I invite you all to test that out, see how it works for you, and see what comes back. But
It would be a good kind of SEO panel discussion. Is .com better than a .real estate or .homes, which will be on the next panel?
Right.
But
So-
that's a different day. We are running a little short. If anybody have any questions for the audience, anything SEO related, I'll be happy to come over there. We have a gentleman over here. I'll come over there. Just, you have two questions. Let's start with this gentleman. He's active today. I'm going to give you a book.
What's the basic cost to start and log in with a website?
What's the cost of, did you say a low cost to build a website, or you want some SEO service? To build a website. It's a broad question.
It starts at free. You start with a free website. Not that it's going to be customizable or search engine optimizable. I would say if you're going to do a good website, from what I see, you want to be starting at least at $1,000 to get like a really good website. But it can go all the way up to who knows what,
I think there's three tiers. One, you have your own, the website builders. You go in, you throw yourself out there, like you were saying, it's free. Usually not good for SEO or a lot of other things. I think the next tier is a lot of companies offer a templated website. So it's a pre-built template that they'll customize a little bit for you. So I think that's the next tier up. I think that'll be thousands of dollars, probably 1 to 6. And then I think the final tier is full custom build. So that's where you're involved before it gets to be a website. You're involved with a design team to design literally your vision getting brought into life. That will be the most expensive, but usually will look the most unique, the most different. It will not look like any other website. But literally from free to 10, 15,000, and it's you definitely over the years to come, you will get value out of the higher end solutions. I think if you say, oh, I want to save some money, I'll just make it myself, I'll pay someone on $5 or $100 to customize something. I think in the end you lose so much on SEO and for example, even not SEO side, you start doing pay-per-click, your website just isn't appealing, isn't action oriented, you're going to lose so much that it's just not worth it. As much as I tell everyone they should have a website, in some cases it might make sense to save up a little bit instead of
right, budget.
Yeah, we see it a lot where we're the third company that is able to do somebody's website because the first company totally burned them. The second company didn't get them any results and had no SEO built into it. Foundation just wasn't there, and then we have to clean up the mess.
And that's not going to happen with this group. So if you're talking to these guys, they're vetted, they're good.
people get burned.
Yeah.
People come to us with such bad experiences. It's I feel bad being in the industry that so many people have so many. It's not recently. Some people like 8 years ago or whatever. But very few people come with a blank slate. Everyone comes with these bad. Website design, definitely people like projects get abandoned, right? Or they pay for something that never gets delivered. And SEO.
So we have time for two more questions.
There's something that's really implementable for all of you. If you have a website and you're wondering, is my website optimized properly? First simple test, right-click on your homepage and go view the source. And you'll see all the coding behind it. And in that coding, right towards the top usually, there'll be a section with title, description, keywords. If your title doesn't include the keyword that you're going after, or your description doesn't include it, or your keyword isn't in there, your SEO company is messing up. And that's the first catch. Like if I was going to audit your website, it's the first thing I'd look at.
So right on the home screen, anywhere they point their cursor and they do right mouse click,
Yeah.
view page source, and take a look over there.
Yeah, or view, depending on the browser, that view, and then.
Now, don't get scared, you're gonna see a lot of code that means nothing to you, so.
Yeah, you wanna look
only
for the
look at
title.
what he's talking about.
One question
There'll
over
be
there.
a bracket title that you look for.
So, let's say you understand something about SEO and we're gonna go hire someone. What I'm always confused about is, what makes you guys experts at writing for the specific industry I'm building out for? It seems that all SEO people present themselves as able to write for or optimize for any industry, and I'm confused how that's true.
Well, first of all, these guys are Google certified, what do they call them, Google certified?
Well, actually, I'll agree with you. I'm the first one to admit to our clients that I'm not going to write your content. Because you're the expert, who's going to write better about Old Westbury real estate? Like Maria hired a content writer. That's the way to do it. Get somebody that really can write about your area of expertise.
And they work in conjunction with...
Of course, yeah, we work as a team on it. Because we'll tell them what keywords to implement, but they'll actually write it in a way that's understandable, cohesive, makes sense to the client.
It's a great question because we're not vertical specific, we cover everything. And we get that a lot. So real estate is easy enough that definitely helps out the local expert, but over time, if you start working with a company and they get to know you, I think you could contribute less and less as they learn about the market and learn all of that. We get people coming from so many different industries. We have a client that came to us, they make fasteners. So any tabs, screws, things like that. Their claim to fame is they make the tab on a national brand beer bottle. So try writing about tabs and fasteners. I think over time, so for us personally, we just have a big team. We have a little bit over 80 employees in total. We train the people. We literally got the book. We paid for the book on fasteners. It's like this. It's like 800 pages. We scanned everything in, and the team learned. I think over time, the company you work with will definitely need you less and less. But for sure, at the beginning, either you would have to be involved, or someone from your team to make sure to guide them in the right path. But I think it's possible for someone you work with to become an expert on your content over time.
Jason,
Sure.
over here, real quick.
One quick, so it also is just based on experience. I mean, I really do encourage, if you're going to hire an attorney, you want to make sure that they have done cases in the past that are, a criminal defense attorney if you're hiring them in that area. So there are, in SEO,
Or their attorneys.
Sure, there are people who specialize and have done a lot of real estate sites. Some sites, some are more towards dental marketing, and some are real estate, and some are very experienced in extremely large websites. We're talking about, what sites that have, MLS listings. There's those sites, that you need to ask the questions and get referrals and say, okay, what kind of websites have you worked on? Because all of us, like I said, we have different experiences.
I think that from the previous speakers and people voting in the polls and how many people actually have websites, the importance of getting a domain and leaving this conference if you don't have a website, that is exactly what you need to do. But it can be an overwhelming process. So a lot of the people who didn't raise their hands when they leave this conference and they want to get a website, there's a lot of different ways they could go about it. Like you said, you could save a lot of money, build one from scratch. You could spend $1,000, you could get a templated website. Wix, Weebly, a lot of different ways. So if they want to leave and get a website, I've heard that there's a myth using a templated website it's harder to rank with SEO if you're using a templated website, and maybe there's tips or tricks than starting from scratch. So maybe if someone wants to leave and build a website, is this something they should think about? And maybe we could point them in the right direction.
I'll grab it really quick. Definitely, so with templated, you run into a similar problem as the content we just spoke about. A lot of the website will be the template you use, a lot of people will be using. So you're going to have a little bit of the duplicate content issue. It's not content the site, but it's a lot of the code, and some of the content will. If you're using a template, some of the content you won't change, and it'll be the duplicate content. The templated website will be better than the Wix website. The full custom will be better than the templated. So there's definitely different levels, but I think it's a really good point. I think everyone here who doesn't have a website should grab one of the three of us and have a chat about it.
Everybody relax, we're gonna break for lunch, and these three gentlemen are gonna stand right by the, we have one more question. They're gonna stand right by the food, and you guys can talk to them while you get your food, I promise you. And they're here for the next 2 days, so one more question here.
I see a rising trend in people not building websites, but instead investing more in their social media, primarily Instagram, as they're targeting 20-somethings. And a large part of my market are 20-somethings that are buying properties with their parents. So how would you recommend investing in SEO for my social media profiles?
Sure, what I recommend is actually, you gotta realize that not all of us, not all your potential customers are on Instagram. They're not, what tends to happen is that people, kind of have their preferred sites. Some of them, some people just go to Facebook all day. Some people just go to Twitter, and some people are on Instagram. So what I would do is basically look at, think of social media as not just Instagram or not just Twitter, but the messaging that you're behind, the marketing message, your logo, the look and feel that you have is spread yourself out. Make sure you have, you have a presence on all of them, because there are totally different market. Yes, you can go all sorts of Instagram, but you're missing, you're missing out on some others. But it is good to be consistent across. There are obviously ways to optimize for each of the social platforms, and those need to be part of your strategy. For example, posting your content, posting your video on your website, but also posting it on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and have that as your...
Before Alex goes, here's a little secret. We did this by design. We have to come back tomorrow at 1 p.m. for the answers on this question, because we have a social media panel where we're going to cover LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And you have to come back anyway to get your credits. So, good.
You stole my answer. I was going to say tomorrow's panel is going to cover, I think it's...
I'm actually looking forward to that panel, so you'll get to see a couple of these guys.
Early afternoon, yeah, but I would say you have to do both, because Instagram would be more of your kind of image advertising platform, but at the end of the day, if someone wants to search which houses are available in a certain town, they're going to do it on Zillow or on your website. They're not going to do it on Instagram. But for sure, especially for real estate agents, it's important. It's part of your brand advertising, brand marketing.
I was going to say, if you're on Instagram and you're crushing on Instagram, or you're just getting started with Instagram, where are they going to go to get more information about you? They're going to click on the link in the bio, and that should land on a website about your brand or about you. Then on social media, I think not entire, but a portion of your social media strategy has to be sending links back to your website. So you have a home for all your content, whether that's your blog or your website, that's your home for your content, and then you're fishing all over Facebook and Instagram to bring people back to your home. And your home becomes this giant repository that builds up over time. It's a huge asset for your business.
Last question.
Gentlemen, for those of us in the room who are thinking about building a website, there are many people who can build websites, and some people have better skills than others. So my question to you is, are there any 3 to 5 top questions that we can vet them properly, so that when we do have a website, it's something that is going to function properly?
I think first thing will be literally what this chat is about. Go on Google and search the company you're about to go with. See what other people say about them, see what they're doing out there. I think that's huge. Obviously, the company itself will give you referrals and show you projects they worked on, things like that. But I think literally what this session is about is go on Google and search them and see what others are saying about them. I think reputation is very, very important.
One question I would ask is examples of their work. Show some of the best work that they have so that you can see how far you can go with it. I would ask for SEO results. What is their SEO strategy? Do they have a foundation for SEO that works? And then how can you manage the content? Do they have a dashboard where you can actually manage it, or are you going to get charged every time you have a change? Those would be 3 questions.
All right, I think we're gonna wrap it up right here.
Yeah, we're gonna go to lunch.
We're gonna go to lunch.
Let's thank Alex,
Melen, Alex Montalenti, Bill Hartzer. We're gonna break for lunch right now. So lunch is outside. For those who don't have a spot to sit, past the elevators, there are 2 other rooms where you can sit and you can have your lunch here. If there's no room here at the tables. It's 12:45, I don't know, let's take a half an hour for lunch, let's come back at 1:15. 1:15, network, have some lunch, enjoy yourselves. We'll see you guys in about a half an hour.